I have a little theory that while we tend to think we want ease, comfort and security, the thing we really deeply desire is purpose. We pursue it in all kinds of ways, through all kinds of things, and often forfeit ease and comfort in the process. Because we want our lives to mean something, to be caught up in something big, of real worth and significance. And the thing that can really strip us of hope in tough circumstances is the loss of purpose, or at least our perception of it. I do believe that if you're following Jesus, nothing outside of yourself can actually rob you of purpose, no matter how impaired, disqualified or disabled you might feel. Purpose can show up in our lives and unfold in all sorts of unexpected ways, in how God uses us and infuses it even into the most difficult of situations. And what pleases God might be a little different to what we tend to think. We might not be doing the things we once set our hearts on, but that deep valley that took away our hopes and dreams can actually unlock something completely new, something deeper that's of real value. So in this video, we're going to explore just this. And I do believe this subject is very much one of comfort, hope and joy for suffering saints. And even if life is really good for you right now, I think it's well worth your time. We all want lives filled with purpose. The truth is the world needs people who have suffered, who've been exposed to all the nuance, the anguish, the compounding layers of pain and complexity that dark trials can bring. God uses people who walk that path, work through the crisis of faith it can bring, yet come out with their eyes fixed on His goodness and grace. And if this is you, you can speak from experience, wisdom and insight in a way that others around you might not be able to yet. But before we get into all of that, I just want to chat about something quite foundational. A while back, I was praying for God to speak to me again, to cook up something special. Sometimes God speaks in a manner that's so timely and specific and tailored. It really switches the light on inside of you because, you just know that He sees you. You know that you're in His sights. When I was praying for this, it had been a while. I was feeling very tired and dry and just wanted something like this again, just for the fog to lift and see something new again. And the very next morning, it 100% felt like God answered crystal clear. It's like someone rang a bell and breakfast was served. I woke up pretty early, as is my tendency, and I fired up YouTube. And confession, I absolutely love YouTube. And right there on my feed was a Tim Keller video on Job. And I never watched Tim Keller. Or, at least I haven't watched him for quite a few years. Not because I don't think he's great, he's amazing. I've just been watching lots of other stuff, and so he hardly ever features on my feed. But this was a video on Job, and it just felt like I was meant to watch that one. And it was a wonderful video outlining the book with the heart of it focused on this one big question. Does Job love God just for himself, or is he actually just using him to get the good things? As Job passes through different levels of suffering, his faith's being tested. And the same question is being asked over and over again. Does Job love God just for himself, or will he walk away if God lowers that hedge of protection and the storm sets in? It's a fantastic little video. There'll be a link in the description if you want to watch it. As it turns out, it was actually the very last video Tim Keller was able to record in that particular series before he got too unwell to continue, before he ultimately died in 2023. And it was like, whoa, look how that lined up. Just kind of felt very poignant. There's naturally a big question here that applies to all of us as we put ourselves in the story. Do we love God just for Himself? Do we love Him just for who He is? A God of pure love and infinite wisdom who's already given us Jesus? That's an incredibly important question to think about, but that's actually not the thing. That's not what switched the light on for me. After chewing this over and musing on it for a good couple of days, a thought occurred and it reverberated right through me that there's a reverse lesson, and it's wonderful. If you flip it around, there's something really beautiful here, and it's this. God doesn't just love me because I try and give Him good things. He loves me just for me, just for myself. I'm accepted as I am. There's nothing in my performance or my works that can cause me to climb the ranks of His favour. I'm already His son. I'm already there. Which is incredibly good news when you feel restricted, clamped down or disabled in any way, when your circumstances have caused your four walls to press in and you can't do all the good things anymore. The thing that God loves about your works is possibly not the works themselves, but the faith behind the works. 1 Corinthians 13 is wonderful and it's echoing around my head right now, but it's the listening, the obedience, the walking in step with Him that He loves. It's seeking His praise first and foremost, rather than the praise of man, which in our case might be the praise from other Christians. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. It's like, whoa, He loves me just for me, not because I try my best to be generous or serve at church, or I try to be skillful in my job and outperform expectations. He loves just me, raw and unfiltered, even when I still need a bit of work, or perhaps a lot of work. His favour doesn't drop when I try my best and I don't succeed. When I don't manage to achieve the goals and dreams that I had set my heart on, goals and dreams which maybe just took up a little too much space in my heart and became a bit too important to me. I don't know if you can relate to this. We so easily source our sense of identity and worth from what we do and what we accomplish, and that can propel us into disorientation and despair when that centre of gravity gets moved or taken away. God loves you just for you, and it's such good news, especially when you feel like you've been impaired or incapacitated in some way. Perhaps that's with your health. You feel like your body has sort of locked you inside a prison, or perhaps circumstances have done that. Maybe injustice has sidelined you, or trials and difficulties of all sorts have left you just feeling benched. But while losing that stuff, like, it is really tough, no one can take away the thing that really counts, and it's your faith, your listening, your obedience and humility as life hits a junction and our Father sets a new course, a new direction and speed. We in the West are, in a sense, children of the Industrial Revolution. We value productivity and efficiency, and we so often gauge our worth on the value of our achievements. It starts at a young age where we try and get good grades. We spend our lives running on an endless treadmill, perhaps at an unsustainable pace. Yet sometimes God steps in and he slows the pace right down, or even yanks us right off of that treadmill. And I've always found this passage in Matthew 7 quite fascinating. It's Jesus speaking in the Sermon on the Mount, and he says this: "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father in heaven. On that day, many will say to me, 'Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name and do many mighty works in your name?' And then I will declare to them, 'I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness.'" This, we have to admit, this is actually quite a scary passage. For some reason, I will confess, I find myself drawn to scary passages. I think it's because I just really want to understand them because they feel so significant. But once we get past the scary bit, we see what this passage is all about. It's about people who did all the stuff, all the impressive works, but never actually formed a relationship with Jesus, and now they're standing before his judgment seat. They never really talked with him, walked with him, or found out what he wanted. They didn't listen, they just did the things that they got excited about. They did the things that looked impressive to them and probably made them look good to other Christians. They thought they were accepted through their works, that it was their achievements that gave them real value. But what this passage reveals is Jesus' heart for relationship, for talking and listening, for those who will slow down and seek out the will of his Father in heaven, and not just rush on with their own plans. Jesus says, "My sheep hear my voice." And again, that's one of the ways we know we're saved. We keep hearing Jesus speak. He has good works for each one of us. And sometimes that's a lot, and sometimes it's a little. But we have to listen, to walk in step and change direction and pace when needed. I believe that what we do changes through different seasons of life, and we go through different phases of intensity and output. And sometimes, it's just not as much as we'd like. Perhaps quite different from what we had originally envisioned. I love the parable of the talents in Matthew 25. I won't read it here, but Jesus tells a story of a man who gives some money to 3 of his servants, 3 different amounts of money according to their different abilities. And he gives them the task of using that money to make money. 2 of them achieve an absolutely amazing return on their investment. They double the money, and that's a 100% return. And this is unheard of. This is incredible. But the words of the master are interesting. He says, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a little, I will set you over much." It's their goodness and faithfulness which is commended, not their output. He didn't say, "Well done, productive and efficient servant," but is instead pleased with their character, pleased that they can be trusted. He's actually pleased with the person behind the work. And this becomes very apparent with the 3rd servant, who doesn't do so well. He isn't given as much, but he panics. He digs a hole and buries the money just so he doesn't lose it. Perhaps he didn't feel like he had the same ability or capacity as the other guys. He couldn't do what they could do, so instead he just does nothing at all, or just preserves what he has. In a sense, he's saying to his master, "You were foolish to give me this task. You were stupid to think I could do it. I just can't, and I'll refuse to even try." But what's interesting is how the master responds. He's not angry that he didn't produce the amazing profits that other guys did, but he actually suggests something pretty basic. He could have just put the money in a bank and earned some interest. And that's so simple. Literally anyone could have done that, and it probably wouldn't even have taken that long. And he realised it was faithfulness the master was looking for. He valued character much more than ability or profits. Maybe he wasn't such a hard taskmaster after all as this third servant had thought. And there's such a valuable lesson here that God values our character and our faithfulness over our abilities and our achievements. And in tough seasons of life where we feel like we can't do much, we can't think of God as a hard taskmaster who's only pleased when we somehow achieve things that are beyond us, what others can do but we can't. Our purpose runs parallel to our faithfulness, and no circumstance can rob you of that. No impairment or disability. In fact, the harder life gets, the more your faith and faithfulness is demonstrated to your Father and to everyone else around. Your faith itself, in a sense, is the greatest work or achievement you could ever hope to come up with. And I really think it pleases God, who isn't a hard taskmaster, who loves it when you're faithful in just the small things. When I became a father, I realised I couldn't help but love these little critters no matter what they might get up to. They're beautiful, they're wonderfully designed and created in ways that blow my mind. And they resemble both my wife and I. I don't love them because of their output, because they do good drawings or help out or tidy up or whatever. They can please me and they can grieve me. But I love them just for them, and your Father in heaven feels exactly the same way about you. I really hope some of this is sort of sinking in. It really hit me recently, and it took about 40 years of me being a Christian for that to happen, which is crazy because you think in some ways this should be the basics, but sometimes the most basic things are the hardest to grasp. I think there's a big question here, and I hope you don't mind me asking it, but is there some task or achievement or failing hanging over your head that you need to be released from? Some goal or dream that you might have put too much of your hope in, too much of your identity in, that you need to let go of? If we can take that hope and instead put it into what Jesus has already done for us, then Isaiah 40 again lifts us right into the heavens. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not go weary. They will walk and not faint. As it turns out, I've actually needed to split this video into two just because of its length. So there's a whole second half of this video diving into a recreated purpose, which I think, especially when times are tough, can fill your heart with joy. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video, and I'll put the discussion questions on screen. And if you're watching on a TV, you can scan this QR code with your phone and it will take you directly there.